Okay. All right. Well, Gigi, I am so glad that we are able to talk about something that I feel like you exude just such amazing, like radical self-care yourself. And you inspire me. Like your passion, but everything that you talk about is just incredible. And I am so thrilled that you can talk with us today and be able to talk about something that's so important to us moms and as parents.
That's right. Yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you so much for inviting me today so that I could share my medicine. And,
Yes.
hopefully, like the moms, I've been listening the entire time, and there have been such value,
Mm.
such, oh my gosh, like golden nuggets. Like I'm like getting goosebumps. Like, yes, this has been such a blessing. So I
Oh, I'm
want to
so
thank you
glad.
for inviting me and also for having this space to allow, all of us to come and just share our own medicine with each other so that we could, butterfly effect, like Erin said.
Yes, the butterfly effect. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Yes, thank you for everything you're doing and for everyone for joining, for contributing. Like, I love this community and be able to share what we have learned, and we can kind of create that ripple effect amongst ourselves and to others. Now, Gigi, I am going to do a introduction of you real quick, if you don't mind, and then we'll get started if that works
Oh,
for you.
yeah, thank you.
Great. Okay, so I want to have everyone learn about Gigi Hunt. She's incredible. And the title of my talk, or Gigi's talk, I should say, is Radical Self-Care with Gigi Hunt, RN. And Gigi is a nurse. She's a nurse and a holistic wellness guide. Gigi encourages moms to nourish their mind, body, and spirit. And she helps explore self development, holistic wellness, and helps moms realize the incredible power of their own journey. And you can follow Gigi on Instagram at the handle b.still.breathe8, as well as her Facebook group, which I will put the link on there as well, her Radical Self Journey. And also, we did a podcast together as well that I'll put the link on in the chat. So feel free to drop any questions that you have for Gigi as we're talking. And Gigi, welcome. It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much again.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Gigi, I've been having all of our presenters say two truths and a lie. Do you have any to share with us?
Yes. So I I was thinking and I was thinking, I was like, what should I say? So I'm saying that I'm going to, just like, I think it was maybe Erin or one of them that said, we're just gonna do it in the moment. So
Yes.
in the moment, through two truth and a lie. So I visited 11 states in 1 year. Um, Big fear of having a baby, giving birth, to birthing a 9.3 pounder on medicated. And I have 3 chickens.
I don't know. Is it the chickens?
Yeah, I don't have 3 chickens.
I kind of want 3 chickens. I think that
I'm like,
would
I
be fun.
wish. I
Yeah.
wish.
My dog would probably not like the 3 chickens, but it would be fun. Well, that's great. What's your favorite state that you've been to? That
Michigan, hands
Yes,
down.
it's a beautiful state.
Uh, it was amazing. We were on the border right there, on the water. So like
Mhm.
I'm really, like, water calls to me. So that's probably one of the reasons why I'm like so drawn to that place. We loved it.
Yeah. Is that the Upper Peninsula?
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. I was there recently and it's gorgeous. Gorgeous. Well, Gigi, I would love to talk with you more about everything that you're doing. And I want to start with this term of radical self-care because I think that is such an important term. And I want to learn about why is that important for us moms to practice?
Okay. Well, Valerie, I think that when we hear self-care in and of itself, it's very surface level,
Yeah.
right? So we're like bubble bath, shopping spree, etc. But when we add that radical self part to it, like it's no one else's responsibility, first of all, but our own. And it's so much more than just the things that we, envision when we talk about self-care. So that's where that radical self-care piece comes in, because it's really us taking our own responsibility for how our life is playing out as moms. And a lot of times I feel like we always say we don't have time, we don't have time, we don't have time, but we always hear also that we make time for the things that are important. So this is something that should be important regardless of how busy or how much things are on our to-do list.
That's so true. I mean, it is something that we have to figure out. And I don't know if I don't know what the right word is, because sometimes I feel like um I don't know, like giving myself grace in the word have to, but also being accountable for my own self-care. And how do I do that? How do I incorporate my own self-care into my life to fill my cup up and I know we've talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
But I do think that is so important. It's so important to do those things.
Yeah. So I really feel like it doesn't just involve one. When you say, like, how can you do it for yourself? Like, it
Mhm.
encompasses so much. It's like your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, like all of these intentional but like transformative actions that we're taking towards the whole bigger picture that is us, right? Not just mom,
Yes.
but us, and I feel like for busy moms, it's like it's very easy to get lost in translation. It's very easy to lose our identity. It's very easy to have feelings and then think that our feelings are not okay because society puts all this pressure on us that we have to be a certain way, we have to think a certain way, we have to be a certain way for moms. So I
Yes.
feel like bringing that kindness to it for ourselves, and just knowing that we're all going to have our unique challenges, but it's that balancing, that's our responsibility,
Mhm.
balancing it out, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, I feel like this really does like empower us to prioritize everything that is important for us. And that's why, like, I feel it's so many different areas, right? It's not just like, oh, I need to exercise, or I need to eat this, or I need to, it's always like, it's also your thoughts, the processes that go into like what energy you're putting out there. All of that comes together to create this like self-care type of regimen, I guess you would say, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that for some reason I'm thinking of like nature with all of this, where I feel like I don't know, when I go, that's my self-care so much of the time, like where I go out in nature, but then I kind of see how everything's connected and how it is like, um, I don't know, like it's just an important reminder for me to realize that everything I'm doing kind of impacts others, and the seasons do the same thing, where was the winter and now spring's coming again, and then the fall. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but that's kind of like what I'm thinking of right now when I think of like this radical self-care, at least for me, like that, to embrace all of those things.
Yeah. And it's very interesting that when I said that, the first feeling that you felt was towards nature, because really
Yeah.
that's when we are most like our most in our most natural state, right? When
Mm,
we are, I was reading, I have these teas and they have like little sayings
okay.
on
Yeah.
them, and I think they're the traditional medicine. And the one that like gets me every time, it's like, it says like talking to plants is our ways to talking to spirit. And like, think about it, like we are so like connected to nature that of course when you think about radical self-care, that's the first kind of thing that's going to pop up, right? Like,
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
I think so too. I I feel like, I mean, I don't know. What other types of things? I have all these thoughts of like all these things I would want to do. Um, to, I have all these interests, I guess I would say, but I think I tend to use the excuse like, oh, there's not enough time. But at the same token, like, trying to figure out how to like double dip, if that makes sense, of like, so now I know that I enjoy nature, I enjoy adventure, I do these things for myself, but also maybe I can take a walk with my kids and we can do those type of things together. Or if I like gardening, I can incorporate that. But then also having that alone time. I mean, how would you recommend maybe like, is there a way to, I guess, how do you hold yourself accountable to those things since it is like so important for us to do? Is there a certain way that you would recommend for us to try?
Yeah, well, that is such a great question. And you know what? Like this has been something that's been coming up a lot for me lately is like that discipline with staying consistent, right? Of
Yes.
how do I even stay consistent with something like that? And I was exploring that word discipline and I was like, I don't know, when I hear discipline, it just sounds so restrictive sometimes, right? It's like you got to be disciplined. But like what if we were to switch that up and say something like our devotion to ourselves, right? You're devoted to yourself. We have such love for our own self that we get creative in finding out the ways in which we're going to fill our cups because like I had mentioned before, it's so much more than just like the big tangible things that we see. It's taking that 5 minutes to breathe,
Mm.
connect with yourself, or saying no even though you feel that fear of, oh my gosh, like I'm going to let everyone down, but you say no because you can't put anything else on your plate. It's
Yes.
got so when we start really digging into that aspect of the self-love part of it, everything just becomes clearer. It's like a lens that's fogged, and then you start clearing it and you start being able to see on the other side clearer, because it doesn't need to be something super regimented and it has to be this and it has to be that. It could look very different for different people in different
Yes.
ways, in different seasons. Like what I needed last year is probably not what I need this year.
Absolutely. I think that is so important to take note. It is different seasons. Um, it looks like May Fiketty had said, how do you differentiate between your self-care when you are also involving your children? So what would you recommend for that?
So for me, when I talk about my self-care in terms of my kids, like I feel the feels. I'm a feel the field type of person, right? Like, how am I feeling while I'm doing something with my kid? Like, am I feeling like obligated? Like, as moms, we don't want to say that, but sometimes you're doing the things and you're not really into it, or you don't
Yeah.
really want to, and you're
Yes.
going with the emotion, right?
Hmm.
A good self-care I guess, tool that I have implemented when it comes to like with my kids is reframing my thoughts and looking at the positives of what's happening. We're not just going to training, we're in the car together. This is a great opportunity for us to talk, for us to, I don't know, even be quiet and silent,
Hmm.
things like this. I feel like sometimes we overthink it, but just the experience of being present is such an amazing self-care thing that you could give for yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because I think in the present, you can't really travel with anyone otherwise. Like you can only meet your kids and your friends, your family in the present. You can, in your own mind, go to the future or to the past, but it's lonely. It's very lonely there because it's really just you. And when you allow yourself to feel and to just be and to take breaths and just enjoy the moment and all of that and embrace all of the self-care that you can in a moment, I think that's really truly where we can connect with other people.
I agree.
Yeah. No, Gigi, I think a really important topic you talk about is generational trauma and kind of like transition people, like the effect of generational trauma. I think that's so important. And I don't think that's talked about. I think like just the whole term, you know, abuse, trauma, that type of thing is, I don't think we shy away from a bit, but I do think it's important to talk about. Can you share with us anything that you would like to share on that topic?
Yeah. So for me, my personal journey has been it's definitely been what it needed to be. Is what,
Yeah.
everything happens in hindsight when we zoom out our perspective, we see the bigger picture, right? Because like I grew up, I did not have a very good childhood. Like maybe if you ask others that were involved, they have a different story to tell. But for me, it was one that was not great. And I say
Mhm.
this because it was affecting me years and years and years and years later, right? I'm in my
Yeah.
20s. I was an insomniac because I would wake up having nightmares still from like my childhood.
Mm.
When I first became a mom, it was hard for me because I got into this battle with myself of I'm not going to be raising my children the way that I was raised. Like, I don't want my children to feel what I felt, to feel the way that I felt when I was growing up. But at the same time, like, I have this programming in me that these triggers that when something happened, I respond a certain way, and that's what's going to go
Yes.
down. Right.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
so like that right there is like a big awareness that I received on my end that really like inspired, I guess, like my healing journey, because I'm like, I need to do this inner work because it's not fair to my kids for me to, you know, um, treat them or even not even treat them, because sometimes it's not the things that we do that makes the most impacts. It's the feelings that the energy that we radiate. So sometimes you could, some people you could feel when they're just not doing the things because of love, but for other reasons. So
Yeah.
I just didn't intentionally or not. Once I realized that this was something inside of me, I knew that it was something that I had to prioritize, right? So I had to prioritize my healing. I had to prioritize my self-care, my unresolved, trauma experiences, all the dysfunction, all those patterns, all those programmings, all of that stuff. It's all very important pieces of that radical self-care piece as well. It all just ties together. So I feel
Mhm.
like, we don't talk about it often because we like to feel like, oh, maybe what happened to me before doesn't have anything to do with what I'm doing right now, but it does, because that's our subconscious mind, right? It's all
Yes.
the things we do that we don't realize we do.
Absolutely. And I just
So,
looked up radical because I think that's just such a cool term. And I'm sure you know this here, but like it just the first thing that comes up is relating to or affecting the fundamental nature of something, or advocating or based on thorough or complete change, supporting. Anyway, now it's just kind of going on about other things. But isn't that interesting? Like it does relate to everything. Like everything
yeah.
is related. And I think that is so important when we talk about like generational trauma and all of that too, is I don't know, like I mean I talked at the beginning and I'll talk a little bit about like my desire to be this A+ mom. And I think a lot of it was because of the fact that I knew that I wanted to be different. And I had this whole plan, but then once I became a mom, I realized how easy it was, because that's all I knew was like getting frustrated or yelling or whatever that is. And like my parents, like I don't know, it's hard because I feel like it's like people have the tools that they have and all of that. And I do self work and all those things. But at the same time, how do I, now that I know the effect, like I experienced it firsthand when I was a child, how do I not pass that on to the next generation? And that's where that true work really does come in, of this radical self-care and self-love, because you do have to kind of have this paradigm shift of this, okay, I'm not going to be perfect, but what I'm going to do is act in love, do what I can in love, and I can be that transitional person, and it may be hard work. And it's sometimes, to be honest, kind of frustrating that I feel like, why was I chosen to be this transitional person? But at the same time, I'm glad that I was, because there is such power in that. And it's I think an incredible opportunity to impact future generations. And I think that we don't, it really, just in general as moms, I think we underestimate our ability and our power that we have. Like truly, in my opinion, is the most important job in the world is motherhood.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think it's great that you said that, where you're like the agent of change, because
Yes.
I feel like that, right? Because like my parents were raised a certain way, so they raised me that certain way, like,
Mhm.
with certain customs and stuff, cultural customs, societal customs that you grow up with, not really realizing how damaging that is to the child that you're raising, right?
Mhm.
So that was like, I was the one, I guess, chosen to wake up and, break that cycle, so that, there could be a different story rewritten for the
Yes.
future generations.
Yes.
So yeah.
It reminds me, and I don't know if we were talking about this on our podcast, Gigi, but like I love the illustration of butterflies and migrating, um, where it's not just one generation that migrates from the south to the north. And I think that's so powerful, because it is, they travel in generations. And so like the work that one generation does, the next butterfly will take up. And I think that's powerful to think of, both in being a transition person where you can kind of veer that journey and your stretch and kind of change the outcome a bit. Or if there's someone that, like for me, like I sometimes will think of how my grandma smiled. So I'm like, well, I want to continue that. I want to continue that smiling journey, with my descendants and all of that. So I just like to think of butterflies with generational legacies. I think it's just a beautiful example, another nature example.
Yes, it is a beautiful example.
Yeah. Um, Now, Gigi, is there anything else you'd like to share with us about like well, first of all, I want to make sure that we know how we can find you, and any other information that you would like to give us as we go about our day, like just trying to practice this. I'm trying to remember what I said about radical, relating to or affecting the fundamental nature of something. Like what else can we do like this weekend to practice this radical self-care?
Yes, yes. So I really feel like this is a very individual thing, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone, we're all so different. And at the core of it all, I feel like as human beings having this human experience, it all ties down to our thinking and our thoughts, right? And dismantling those like old patterns that no longer serve us. Like, just because we're raised a certain way and we have thought a certain way, we could still choose today to say, you know what, I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. Like we have that choice. So I feel like that's something that as moms, and even myself, like I repeat it to myself every day I could choose to be the best mom, right? Like every day I could choose to wake up and have a good day and, live a balanced life. Every day I'm saying I'm the embodiment of a balanced woman, right? Like we have that option. We could choose to say these things. And because our words are very, very powerful. And I feel like as moms, we just have to remember that we do the best that we can. We're moms, but we're also humans, and humans make mistakes. Humans have doubts. Humans have fears. Humans, especially as women, we're cyclic beings. Not every year is going to be the best year of your life, no matter how intent you are in it being the best year of your life, right? So just having grace with ourselves and knowing that, like, I know I said before that word discipline, it just feels so restrictive. The reason I feel like it's so restrictive is because I put like for a long time this negative piece on it of it is a very masculine type of thing, but we need that. And for women, our feminine needs our masculine to be strong. We need that
Mm.
discipline so that we could feel free in that discipline to be who we truly want to be, you know, who we truly desire to be. And I shared with my group, which, by the way, you know, you could join. We have a free Facebook group, Our Radical Self-Care Journey. We talked about that before, but you know, I share insights often in there. And one of them that I shared last week was, we want to build our self-trust, because the reason that sometimes we're so flaky with ourselves, where we you know, we say we're going to do something, we don't do it, we're scared of that word discipline, is because our self-trust is not up to par, right? We don't trust ourselves to be consistent. We don't, you know, so maybe doing like those little actions on a regular basis. And I gave the example of making a small promise to yourself every day and keeping it. That builds us up, and that builds self-trust, because everything, we just need to be consistent and just persistent as well, because nothing is going to change overnight. You know, you can make that choice to do something today, but it doesn't mean that you're going to see that result right away. In order for us to see the result, we're going to have to keep at it.
Yes.
And not every day is going to be great. Some days I lose it.
Yes.
Girl. But that doesn't mean the whole CD is gone. The whole book needs to be thrown in the trash, right? That's just one little page. Let's turn it over. Let's start new again. So, if you'd like to join the group, you know, if you're listening and you're a mom on a radical self-care journey, we're all humaning. We're making mistakes and learning from our experiences, and it's okay to be vulnerable. I actually just saw today, I don't know why, but I wanted to say that, like, I just saw today on my Facebook wall, this mom say that she posted something about like all the moms in a train, you know, when someone does like a food train or something like that, and everybody's sending food to everyone, she's like, they'll do that, but then everyone will be talking about the situation or the circumstance or in a negative way. And that's why I commented and I said, that's why so many women and so many moms, when they're struggling with their own self-care or with their kids or whatever, they're scared to speak up because they don't want to be ridiculed. They don't want to feel like less than. And I've been there too, right? Like, it's normal, but we're all struggling with something, and we all have, you know, something that we're going to learn. Every day is going to be different. Feel free to be yourself and just ask the questions, no matter how silly or how small they seem, and seek the support. Because no matter what you're going through in your motherhood journey or elsewhere, like, I guarantee there's a lot of other people going through the same thing. We just got to seek each other out.
Yes, that is so important. We are not alone, and everyone is going through these same things, or the vast majority of us. And, you know, and it is so important to recognize that. And yeah, I think that's a good point about like the meal trains and all
Meal
those
train.
things.
That's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Food train. Food train.
Yeah, no, and I think it's interesting too. Like, at one point I was thinking about like meal trains and all, and how like at first when you have your first baby, there's like all these meal trains, and then I feel like it just kind of like starts to decrease a little bit. And then yeah, like you're saying, it's more of like this, you don't want to like reach out and ask for help and all that, 'cause it's like, well, then I'm gonna feel, you know, people are gonna say something, or I'm gonna look like a certain way. But like I feel like that's yeah, it's hard. It's hard to be vulnerable, but at the same time, I think that's where we truly can learn to grow as well. And practicing that, it's like exercising, like you're saying, like you can't, like it just continues to, you can't do it overnight. You just keep working at it and you keep exercising and practicing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Gigi, I just absolutely love everything that you have to say here. And I have in the show notes all the information, and we'll also record this as well and post this so more people can check out all this information that you have. And is there anything else you'd like to leave with our listeners before we go?
No, just, you know that as a mom, you're doing the best.
You're
You
doing
are doing a good job.
You
You're doing a
are.
good job. You got this.
Yes. Yes.
You got this.
And I
Yes.
remember, Gigi, you said you like to hug trees. Is that right?
Yeah. And
We should
talk to
hug
them.
and talk
Plant.
to them. Yes. well, there's a lot of plants that I would like to have some chats with, like just in like a, appreciating life, appreciating everything there is in life. And so whatever flower or plant you see, maybe give it a mental salutation or something, right?
Yes. Yes.
On that note,
On
so
that note,
but
thank you
that's
so much.
wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Gigi. And if you guys have any questions for Gigi, just make sure you put a message in the chat or send her a DM and get in touch with her. She's incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I think now, looking at the schedule, I think now it is time for, I'll talk about some of my stuff here that I go through. And honestly, you guys, I've been like preparing all this talk for everybody, and I just didn't do as much preparing for my own talk. I did this morning a bit, but this will just kind of be like an improv type of thing. I was talking a bit this morning. I don't know if y'all had, some of you guys I think may have been in, but I'll just do a quick overview. But so my name is, as you've been seeing on the Zoom, Valerie Probstfeld, and I'm a nurse practitioner. And I created the website To Mom Is to Love, and essentially a community that embraces imperfection. Because I think perfection is so overrated, and I say that as kind of a recovering perfectionist because I really studied for motherhood like I was going to be this A+ mom, like I was saying earlier. And a lot